back, everyone, to Stand4Kind Talks. And today we have a very, very important topic to share with our listeners. And we have invited James Harrison with iDefend, our expert in cybersecurity, to join us today so that we can help educate our parents, our teachers, our caregivers on how to protect their families in this ever-changing landscape of online gaming and cybersecurity. James, it is so nice to have you on today.
Thank you so much. Awesome to be here. Thanks, Candy.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, let's just jump right in. So tell us a little bit about this passion project that you started, 2 decades ago, and how it's evolved, and really just some information around the mission of iDefend.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity to share that. We've been in the battle to fight good versus evil, so to speak. Think of superheroes and comic books and all that. We've been doing this for over 20 years now. And long time ago, my personal business that I owned was hacked pretty badly and pretty much
Oh,
destroyed. And
no.
so I learned as a young entrepreneur back 25 years ago or so that there's a dark side to the internet. And that was right when the internet was just coming about, right? It was just after the dot-com blowout and, the early 2000s and whatever. But learned real fast the bad guys are out there. And it wasn't too much longer than that. I started raising my children. I had some kids and they started, in that 12-year-old range, and cell phones magically appeared on the market around 2007 or so. Internet became pervasive. Everybody had it. It was in every home. And, you know, kids were exposed to something that they'd never been exposed to before. Information online and this access to things. And then Facebook emerged onto the scene, and
Mhm.
MySpace. I'm that old. Yes, I lived through all of that stuff.
Right there with you.
Yeah, and I watched my kids learn and adapt, and their lives were fundamentally changed.
Mm,
So not only was my own business kind of destroyed by hackers from foreign countries and things,
mm,
but but
wow.
my kids were also starting to go through this transition of what is this whole new digital world and all. And I realized that this pipeline of good and bad was being opened up into our homes,
Mhm.
and I started really looking at the impact that it was having on my own kids. And my daughter at the time, she's the oldest, she ended up having a lot of anxiety problems and depression issues and self belief, some destructive thoughts and patterns because people would sort of form cliques online, and then they would transition to the physical world, and those cliques would manifest at school, and bullying would start to happen, and people would say bad things online. And I watched my kids kind of grow up in this environment where the world was just trying to get their arms around
Mhm.
that transition from the physical to the digital world. So we are in a fully digitally connected world today. And we've come a long ways since those days when I first started watching the impact on my kids. But today we now live in an environment where everything is connected online. Your kids live online virtually.
Mhm.
And so years ago, I sat back and looked at it and said, we've got to solve that problem. We have to do something for me, for my family, for my friends. And we really launched a mission to go out and save as many families as we possibly could against these threats that are happening out there. And that's the short story. There's a lot more to it, but suffice it to say that my passion and my company's passion and everything that we do kind of revolves now around this idea that everybody's got to have a helping hand to learn how to deal with the digital world and to learn how to defend ourselves against a variety of threats. It's a growing list. It does not
Mhm.
stop.
Mhm.
And it really behooves all of us to get a little bit of education about this and then arm ourselves with the right tools
Mhm.
to defend ourselves, and then be proactive about it and stay on top of it. And that became the mission. So we're out to save as many families and kids as we possibly can from coast to coast. It's an exciting vision. It gets me up every morning. I'm proud to be a part of the project, proud of the team here who's helped put together not just the educational side of this, but the solution side of it. And we're super proud to be working with Stand4Kind to kind of marry up our missions together.
That is fantastic. Wow. It's amazing to me to think about you took a bad situation with your company and you turned that into an opportunity to help yourself and to help others. And then seeing your family affected by bullying basically online, and then trying to come up with strategies and ways to prevent that is just awesome. I mean, that really, where's your superhero cape? You didn't wear it today? Have that situation on. And you really segued it to the first thing I wanted to ask you beautifully. So, thinking about this, at Stand4Kind, we do so much with anti bullying. We have digital literacy training for our students, we have cyberbullying training. But parents at home, they're fighting two fronts. They've got the physical world and they've got the digital world. And they're trying to navigate both and help guide their kids through those two fronts. And we know that there are a lot of, like you said, a lot of emerging threats, not to fear monger. This is more about education and awareness than building fear. So I don't want parents to think that we're trying to make you fearful or scared. We're trying to educate. But what are some of the major things that you have seen emerge over the last few years?
Great question. And this is a very, very important part of our discussion today. As much as we don't want to bring fear into it, knowledge is power. And we like to use the word empower. We want to empower you. We want to empower everybody to
Love
deal
that.
with this effectively. And if we're not empowered, then we become victims. And it's a give or it's one of the two scenarios, right? If you don't take this seriously and you bury your head in the sand, you're probably going to become victimized. Your kids are going to be victimized. So you have to know what they know. You have to know what the bad guys know.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're the target,
Mm-hmm.
right? You become the easy prey.
For sure.
So empowering starts with understanding and learning. And just at the tip of the iceberg here, I'm just going to cover a few of the basic things that we see happening every day to everyday families.
Okay.
And these are
Cool.
the biggest threats that we try to help people protect against head on. We go head on against these things. Number one, of course, in our mind is online predators. It's people with really bad intent, criminal behavior, criminal minds, who target children in particular, families. I won't waste a lot of time going into the whole financial side of this and other things, but let's
Mm-hmm.
just stay focused on family safety and kid safety. There are over 500,000 predators online every day, according to the FBI, and these are child predators, sexual assault predators. Half a million every day online looking for their next victim. And so there's a really good chance that if you don't know what you're doing, that they will find your child or you.
Mm-hmm.
And take advantage of you. And this is manifested in the numbers, the statistics, which are really startling and scary. I don't know if you know this or not, but 1 in 5 kids under the age of 18 have already been sexually solicited online.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
so
huge problem, right? It's like,
yeah.
you have to think about that for a minute. It's like 20% of our kids have already been solicited. So that number is just going up. That's not going away. And the net effect of all of this online activity and the really bad stuff, this is the most startling one of online predators that I can think of. And that is that 82% of sexual crimes and assaults start with a connection on social media.
Oh, I didn't know that.
82%.
Holy smokes.
So if you don't understand social media and you don't understand online connections and you don't understand gaming, you don't understand some of these things, 82% of sex crimes start there. And
Wow.
so really, when you're talking about layers of defense, this is one of the first layers of defense. You've got to understand how to put these barriers up, how to protect yourself and your family and your kids.
Mm-hmm.
So those are really significant. That's a huge trend, right? Predators is a huge trend. You know, if you've watched Sound of Freedom movie and you talk about child trafficking, sex trafficking, I mean that's a real problem. But I will tell you, digital crime is way bigger, and bullying and online predators and all these, it's a way bigger problem than international child sex trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
So while it's been popularized through big movements to go track down predators in a physical world, there's this whole online of digital predators that we have to be
Mm-hmm.
aware of, and it's a much higher chance that your child will be affected by that than to be kidnapped, for example. So
Yeah.
predators is our number one thing that we like to look out for and prepare families for how to stay protected. That's really important. Number 2 is bullying, with 6 in 10 kids reporting being harassed or bullied online. That's a big deal. A little known fact is that only 1 in 10 children who are bullied ever tell their parents.
Mm-hmm.
9 out of 10 don't tell their parents. So you may not even know. They might not tell a teacher or an educator, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes that just goes hidden and those feelings bury deep inside, and it creates lots of other problems. And it leads to the other big ones that we pay attention to. One is digital addiction and mental health risks.
Yes.
Just touch on digital addiction really quick. And then we'll talk about mental health risks, because that's the big one too that you need to pay attention to. But an average teenager now spends 8.5 hours online in front of a screen. When you and I grew up, didn't happen, right? We were playing in parks and doing, bike rides and, whatever, right? Sports. A lot of kids don't have that same lifestyle anymore. They spend so much time in front of their phones, and now some schools are thankfully starting to restrict schools in the classrooms and or phones in the classrooms. I think those are really good steps. Like, society goes through these waves, and we're just understanding now the implications of the digital world. So
Yes.
I think mental health and digital addiction are two big things that I think educators talk about often now, and groups like Stand4Kind talk about often are
Yes.
these things. So we see social interactions and behaviors greatly affected by all of this, and it's really changing the future of relationships between human to human contact. And so we're worried about that. We pay attention to digital addiction and trying to help parents create healthy lifestyles around this. But mental health risks, we all know, any of us who study this stuff, the statistics. But here's a couple that I'll point out that I found interesting that I've been looking at lately. One is that almost 60%, 50%, 57% of girls report feelings of hopelessness and sadness. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost 6 in 10. 30% of boys, it's 29 and some odd percent of boys say the same thing. These
Mm-hmm.
are huge leaps from where we were. That's also tied to the suicide rates and suicide ideation, right? If you
Yeah.
look at the depression and anxiety that leads to somebody thinking that they should take action on that, I went back and looked at when the spike really started to happen in this, and it came right after the year 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Magically, that's about the time smartphones started coming out
Mm-hmm.
and the internet became used everywhere, right? Suddenly, this transformation to the digital age has taken bad turns for a lot of people
Sure.
because they're not getting in front of it and they're not managing it well. So, a 62% increase in suicide rates since 2007. That's one of the fastest growing rates of threats against children and teens of all. So, we're concerned about that. The last one I'll point out is one that a lot of people don't think about, and that is you've heard of data breaches, you've heard of data being stolen and put out on the dark web.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are affected by this too. And when you're talking family safety, you can't forget the fact that your child has an identity, and bad people can steal that information, their date of birth, their social security number, and other personal information. And it starts with meeting them online on social media, and then they start building profiles about your child. And once they get into the home network, into the home computers, into the devices, they can start gathering more information. So hackers are very smart, and a child's identity is worth a lot of money. The devastating effect to a child is when they become an adult. They turn 16 to try to get a driver's license, or when they try to get their first loan or go to college and get a college application. They may find that they have a criminal record,
Mm.
and they really don't. So the theft of your child's information is also something that needs to be on the radar, and that's happening
Mm.
at alarming rates. 1 in 10 children today already have their identity stolen, and it's available on the dark web for purchase, and bad guys can use it. They can create and use entire profiles and a whole medical thing. They can buy houses and cars in the child's name, and the child would never know it. You would never know it as a parent
Mhm.
until way later on in life. And now potentially they're in financial ruin right as they're trying to get started with life. So there's not just predators and bullying and all the mainstream stuff that we hear about, but addiction is a hidden sleeper. Mental health risks, a lot of people don't think about this stuff. And then child identity theft and fraud in that area. Those are the big ones. If I was to list out my top five, those would be the ones.
Yeah. And I think too that you bring up so many great points and so many things to be aware of. And I'm so glad that I'm so glad that you guys are focused on helping parents and caregivers get in front of these threats. But I have two questions. Well, a comment and a question. So when you think about the mental health effects, it's not always easy to spot what is happening when there is a social media addiction, because kids are very crafty and they're very
Oh
smart.
yeah,
And they know that if their parents pick up on it, they're going to take that device away. And so they're more likely to try to hide the
that's right.
addiction or the mental health effects because they don't want their technology taken away. So we have
That's
to
right.
be very, very diligent about looking at those signs and making sure that they're taking a break. And one thing that we recommend is, no phones in the bedroom at night. Only in public spaces, in the main living spaces,
Yeah,
computers in the main living spaces, just to try to help get additional eyes and put some safeguards in place there.
that's right.
um, and how, so my son, when he was young, he had to visit the ER, and come to find out, the hospital, a large Tennessee hospital, was hacked, and they sold thousands of social security numbers. And so the hospital paid for all of those people, including us, to have protection for a couple of years. What are some other ways, you mentioned it, but what are some other ways that your child's identity can be stolen?
Well, data breaches is the first and biggest way, but when a parent's identity is stolen or when a bank account is hacked, as soon as they get an open door, just a little crack in the armor,
Uh huh.
they're able to get in and find out who the children are. Let me give you a real example of that. 1.5 million people have their tax returns stolen every year in the United States. The IRS deals with 1.5+ million people who a
Wow.
thief files tax returns in your name, requests a refund, and gets a check sent somewhere else before you even get a chance to file your own returns. But what's on that tax return?
Oh my gosh, your life.
Everything, right? So your child's social security number, their date of birth, right
Mm-hmm.
there on the tax return. That's just one example.
Wow.
You pointed another one out, which is data breaches at hospitals. Schools are also notorious for having data breaches. So are government offices and agencies. But yeah, you don't think about that, right? Tax returns. Well, 1.5 million people a year deal with that,
Yeah.
and their children's information is exposed. So we live in this digital world where it's all wild, wild west until you take action and protect yourself, and you
Right.
have to be actively monitoring. Let me give you a couple of other tips. You talked about things that parents should be doing. You talked about having computers in the right places and bedtimes and no phones in the bedroom and all those things. But here are a couple of signs to watch for. How do you know your child's in distress? Right? What are the signs? And for teachers or educators, you probably have been trained on this, but
Mm-hmm.
and you can share with me your insights that you guys see as well. But if you see an immediate change in behavior, like suddenly they're angry or they light up really quick, like
Mm-hmm.
something sets them off and they react unusually strongly to something,
Mm-hmm.
that's a sign. Loss of appetite can be a
Yes.
sign if they stop eating. If for some reason they pretend sick,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to go to school.
I got belly problems. My tummy hurts all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Any of those little things like that.
Yeah.
They start struggling with their grades. Their grades suddenly take a downturn.
Yes.
They're distracted a lot. If they hide the phone when you come near,
Yep.
right? If they're on their device and you happen to walk up behind them and they're on the couch, and as soon as they know you're there, they hide it and they
Mm-hmm.
chuck it under their leg or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are signs that there might be something going on there to pay
Yeah.
attention to. But we hope that parents are prepared ahead of that and kind of have the ground rules laid down and are trained
Mm-hmm.
and aware of what to watch for, because you're not going to ever control everything. You can't prevent a bully from being a bully,
Right.
but there are things you can do and prepare for. And when things turn south a little bit, you can get ahead of it quick
Mm-hmm.
and salvage that child's emotional health and mental health and come out shining on the other side as a strong young person ready to take on the world if it's done right.
Absolutely. I think it increases your bond with your child too when you're able to work through situations like that. And
Yeah,
kids
absolutely.
may buck against structure and parameters, but in reality, it helps them to feel safe and to, know that they have a trusted adult in their life that they can go to. And also, you made me think of when kids stop wanting to do things that they normally really enjoy. Maybe they enjoy going to practice or going to dance class or whatever, and all of a sudden they don't want to do those things anymore. or they're just not really motivated to get up and get going. And this is beyond the, kind of teenager, I'm tired situation, right? Because we've
Yeah, yeah,
always used that with our kids. Um, yeah, and eating and sleeping, those are big things too that
yep,
can be signs of depression or anxiety. So I'm glad you brought those up. Those are great things to be aware of.
yep, for
Um,
sure.
so, okay, so we've talked about some threats that you've seen emerge and some things to look out for. What about there's a lot of education for Stand4Kind around digital literacy. And so we're always preparing and talking to kids about their digital footprint and being responsible online. But when you are, I would say, 9 to 18 years old, you're not thinking necessarily about your future. You're not thinking about, well, when you're a little young, you're not thinking about that college application or the job application or if you want to go into the service or whatever. Some of the things that can happen online could greatly affect your future, right? So, and they stay with you. So, how do we really warn kids about the lasting impact of their digital footprint? What are your recommendations?
Well, this is an education for parents as much as it is for kids, right? Because if parents understand this, then they can teach the kids, and educators, I think, should be teaching kids too. But we live in a world where everything is online. Just near where our corporate headquarters are, there is a massive data center that
Mm,
runs, 7 stories underground, full of computers and equipment that just stores and tracks everything. Um, and this is just from one government agency. Uh, Facebook has a giant uh, data center here. Google is putting one in. So I can see these firsthand, but if you go across the country, these data centers are everywhere. Well, what that means is that there's that much information being tracked and stored
mm-hmm.
that they have to build these massive data centers to store it all and keep it all.
Had thought about.
And the first and most important lesson to understand is everything is tracked and recorded.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an Amazon Alexa device in your family room, what you're saying and what you do is tracked and recorded, whether you like it or not.
I just
Your
think that's so
phone
creepy.
phone applications, little apps that you can put on your phone, if you don't understand the permissions,
Mm-hmm.
they might just opt themselves into turning on your mic whenever that app is on or even when it's off
Wow.
and listening to everything that you say in private. Those are just 2 very simple examples, but everything is tracked and recorded. If you post anything, publish anything, if you comment on anything, it's all tracked and recorded.
Wow.
Um, when these school shooting incidents have been happening lately, one of the first things they do is they go back and do a deep forensics into the history of that young person's or adults past 10, 20 years, and they try to identify where things went wrong
Yes.
and find a reason why this violence took place. And inevitably, they're able to find an entire history of that individual.
Yes.
So learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
If the government can get access to it, so can big tech. And they're
Mm-hmm.
going to use that information to track everything about you. Here's a lesson I learned a long time ago. If you're using a free something or other, you're the product.
Mm-hmm.
They're tracking you, they're watching you, they're selling your data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's free, you're the product. They're
Interesting.
advertising to you. So for a child, for a teen, here's where it really hits home. And let's talk about this massive problem of sextortion
Yes,
and
please. Yes.
bullying through illicit photos. This is a huge deal. And it goes 2 ways. It's not just for the victim whose photo has been shared, it's also for the perpetrator who's sharing the photo. There's
Mm-hmm.
legal risks there for that person too. So this
Yes.
is a hot button issue. I'm not going to spend tons of time on it, but let's just say that kids need to be taught right now, you never take inappropriate photos of yourself.
Right.
Don't take the photo.
Just
It's
don't
not a
even.
matter of whether you share it or not. Don't take the photo.
Yep.
Don't say something that you would potentially regret 5 years from now. All of it is tracked and recorded. The photos that you take are uploaded to the cloud,
Mm-hmm.
unless you know specifically what to do to prevent that from happening, like our guys teach our clients to do. But you never want to take an inappropriate photo. Teach your kids that, because that will come back to haunt you. It's virtually guaranteed that that's going to happen. If you do share an inappropriate picture, not only is it against the law to do that if you're under 18, um, but if you take one and send it to somebody, you're in trouble. If
Mm-hmm.
you share it after being sent the photo, you're
Mm-hmm.
in trouble.
There's consequences all
There's
around.
consequences all around, and
Mm-hmm.
we have to protect the most vulnerable among us, the kids. And this is a simple thing where these electronic devices that are put in our kids' hands that have all this power can literally destroy their lives if they aren't careful and don't know the ground rules of safety on this stuff. Your digital footprint will affect your entire future. It will affect college acceptance. It will affect job offers. It will affect lots and lots of areas of your life that you haven't even thought about yet. And I'll just throw one more thing on top of this. Where AI is taking the world,
Man, right?
it's going to be tenfold bigger problem,
Yes.
because you will have devices in your home and on your television and on your computers, apps on your phone that literally are listening to everything that you do and say. Apple just announced this new intelligent iPhone 16. Years back when we listened to this podcast again, and we'll be laughing about it because of how old school
Mm-hmm.
iPhone 16s are down the
Mm-hmm.
road. But
Mm-hmm.
today, right now, it's relevant because we're kind of at a tipping point where we're enabling technology to come in and basically track everything that we do, and then turn around and tell us, hey, let me assist you with setting this calendar event. Let me assist you with ordering this food. But they know that much about us. And
Yeah.
they say that it's all safe on the devices. We don't know how much is being uploaded to the cloud per se, but when kids get too comfortable and too complacent with that device that's in their hand,
Mm-hmm.
that's when problems are going to start. And
Mm-hmm.
AI is just going to make that problem even worse. So, we look forward to it with excitement about the advances of technology, but we also want to be careful about the side effects and the consequences of that. So protect your digital footprint. Don't post anything, say anything. Don't take pictures that you would regret 5 and 10 years down the road. Like I say, if you're not comfortable with your grandma seeing it,
Yeah.
then you probably ought not to do it. You
Great
probably ought not to
advice.
say it.
Great advice. Yeah. That's great advice. And you made me think of a couple of stories that have come out recently too. One I saw where he looked like he was about 9 years old and he had been on roadblocks and he shared his family's address, family photo. He just basically let the wolf in, right? And so
Yep.
he's outside jumping on his trampoline and the man actually shows up to the front of his house. And, that's terrifying. Things like that.
Oh
And it
yeah,
was caught on the ring
absolutely.
camera. It was, he's
Absolutely.
asking, is your mom home? And then there was the situation where the adults were using AI to bully high school students. So I think that technology is advancing so quickly and it's putting resources in the hands of people that are the predators or the bullies. And we're trying to educate and get ahead of it as
Yep.
fast as we possibly can. And that's why we need people like you and your team to help us do that because we are working our full time jobs. We're trying to raise our families. We're trying to, do all these things. And then we have this.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult. And sometimes parents almost feel like they're failing their kid because they can't stay ahead of it
Yeah.
fast enough and they don't they feel like, oh, what else could I be doing? So I'm so glad that you guys
Yep.
are in our
No,
corner.
you're exactly right.
Oh my gosh. So let's talk more about the empowering of parents. So what should, in your opinion, which is the professional expert opinion, what should parents be doing to protect their kids?
Well, there's a big concept that we're pushing really hard and trying to get society to understand is that every family needs to have a family online safety plan.
Love that.
Parents
Tell me
need to
about
have a
that.
plan of action, and it needs to cover some key areas. I'll tell you what those are. I'll
Okay.
give you the blueprint, right, of
Okay.
what a family safety plan should look like for the internet. And it changes, right? This should be something you look at often, review often, especially as your kids get older.
Okay.
When they progress on beyond high school and into college, there's still some things that you should have as ground rules for your home. But, an online safety plan is beyond just what happens within the four walls of your home. It's much more than that. It's what happens at school. It's what happens,
Mm-hmm.
playing at a friend's house.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Um,
yes, absolutely.
right. So, but what is your family safety plan? If you don't have a family safety plan, you need to get one, and you need to know exactly what your game plan is to protect the family and yourselves. In that plan, I would say purely from a teen child safety perspective, I'll point to some key things that should be in there. Number one is have a plan to monitor and protect their smartphones. The smartphone is the biggest attack vector that the child has. It can be turned into a weapon against your child, and it's right in their pocket or in their
Mm-hmm.
bag all day, every day, right? But this is one of
Mm-hmm.
the single biggest attack points, and it's everything that's on the screen that matters. So have a plan to protect it, and a couple of real specific, simple things related to smartphone safety and security would be able to limit time on the devices. The child should only be on a screen for a certain amount of time a day, and whether that's up to you to decide whether that's a couple of hours a day or 3 or 4 hours a day, but it shouldn't be 8.5 hours a day.
Right.
So screen time is a big deal, and there are tools built right into most phones that you can do this pretty easily. If you don't know how to do it, our team shows parents how to do that. But in terms of protecting smartphones, it's things like limiting screen time or tracking locations, but it's also about restricting apps. If you don't understand what an app is doing on the phone, what permissions have been opened up, whether it can use the camera or the mic, if there's certain social media apps that you are worried about, then you need to make sure that you've restricted them on the child's phone. And so
Mm-hmm.
we make pretty much in our recommended family safety plan, as an example, Snapchat and TikTok are no-nos.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two things right off the top that we're like, nope, this shouldn't be allowed. And I
Yes.
know your kids get social pressure for not having this or that, but it's literally a matter of safety.
Mm-hmm.
um, like the 9-year-old that had somebody pull up to his house, right?
Right.
um, and that points to the next one, which is your video games. Right.
Woo.
Part of your family plan should be understanding the risks with video games and knowing how to monitor the games and parental controls with those games, whether it's on a computer, whether it's on the PlayStation, the Xbox, the Wii. It doesn't matter. You should have a game plan around video game safety and security, and that should be a part of your family's online safety plan. And they all kind of tie together. Another one that I would put on that list would be limiting inappropriate content in the home. Filtering that out, blocking, however you want to call it, but limiting dangerous and explicit content is huge.
Yeah.
Kids can be exposed to things that they don't need to be or shouldn't be exposed to at younger ages. So there's strategies that you should have in place for that, and protecting the entire network in the home, not just a device.
Mm-hmm.
You should have your entire home network locked down and protected from wrong and bad content. And let me just tell you, that includes your smart TVs, and that
Yes.
includes streaming apps like Disney Plus
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
Hulu and Netflix,
Just
YouTube
keep
TV.
listing. You just list them all.
Right? You have to know how to protect your kids from that. What is your teenager doing in the basement family room in front of the TV at 11:30 at night when you're going to bed and you didn't know they snuck down there, right?
Right.
There are protections that you can do as a family, to protect against these things. I'll leave you with the last point on the family safety plan. I could give you a longer list, but I'm trying to keep it pretty simple here. We
Sure.
call this good digital parenting. You've got to know how to be a good digital parent today. And good digital parenting starts with knowing how to talk to your kids about the risks that are out there. Uh, Teaching your kids the signs of a predator. What are the warning signs? Digital addiction and cyberbullying. Getting an agreement with your kids that we all agree as a family, these are important risks. We're not gonna mess around with this stuff. We're gonna be protected and safe. You need the buy off of the kids on this. Like, we love you, we care about you, we want you to be safe. Let's work together on this. And we've created a family safety plan, and here's how this is going to work so that we're not put at risk. You're not put at risk. You need to teach the kids the good digital habits. Good cyber hygiene is a part of that plan. But as a parent, good digital parenting is knowing those signs. We talked about some of those earlier, but then knowing how to respond. The response side of this is huge, right? There's a right way and a wrong way to respond. The parents shouldn't turn into bullies.
Right.
right? There's a
Right.
right way and a wrong way to respond to this, to de escalate a situation, and to rescue the child from a potentially devastating situation. So we can be good digital parents. We can put the cape on and be the hero, but you've got to have a plan of action. And I just gave you some of the highlights of what maybe that plan of action is. One of the tip I would give you this recommendation for your family plan, and that is to have experts that you can call anytime you need. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you turn to
Mm-hmm.
if X, Y, or Z is happening in your home or your family, or if you don't know how to monitor content on that television, who do you
Mm-hmm.
call? Right? So having experts on hand is a really smart part of a family safety plan. Knowing who to call to help set things up, to configure things, knowing who to call when an emergency happens and you need recommendations now of what to do.
Yes.
So I think that's in today's day and age, we pay for a lot of things that might be, something to do is to make sure you have people,
Yes.
friends that know this stuff.
You guys are the people. You will
We are.
actually walk alongside parents and
Yep.
teach them and empower them and help them look at everything that they have in their home as far
Yep.
as digitally wired up and help them create that safety plan
Yeah. Yeah.
to protect their
We
family.
are, we call ourselves advisors and advocates.
Hmm.
And the goal is to empower the parent to have a cyber safe home and to have cyber safe kids. Right.
And
But
then you guys are going to be the ones too that are like, okay, it's been a minute. We haven't looked at your safety plan in a minute. Let's
yeah.
review that again together and see what additions or
Yep.
changes have been made to the home or what access the kids have.
Absolutely. Minimum once a year, we take all of our customers through that process of reevaluating risk. Your kids aged a year. They're now in high school. They were in junior high. Here's what,
Yeah.
or they now play video games and they didn't before. Or you moved and graduated beyond a protected kid phone onto an iPhone or an Android phone. Now what? Right? A
Yeah.
lot of families do that. They'll buy these kid safe phones, but then when the kid goes to junior high or whatever, it's like, yeah, you're probably going to end up getting them an iPhone or an Android phone. Well, now what? Right?
Yes.
So as life changes and kids grow, needs change, and it's important that you review the plan and you keep it updated. And when that's what we do for our clients, we kind of hold everybody accountable and keep that plan current and well run.
That's awesome. Because we know through brain research that a child's brain is it's just not developed enough to make those decisions that
Yep,
are safe for themselves. They're impulsive. They're not thinking about the future. They want immediate gratification. And they're so there's the risk of increased suicidal ideation. I saw this one statistic, and I know that I shared it with you from JAMA, and it says young people who are cyberbullied are at a 50% increased risk of suicidal thoughts than their peers, and that's from the Journal of American Medical Association. So 50%, that's terrifying as a parent to think that but empowering us, let's take it from a prevention empowering standpoint. There are things that we can do to help mitigate that, but it's advancing so fast.
it is.
Again, we need help to get in front of it and to know what
Yep.
to do.
Yep. When TikTok emerged on the scene just not too long ago, nobody knew how to respond. Nobody knew what the risks and threats were. It's a
Yeah.
very addictive situation, and it's creating situations where mental health is at risk and other things. That's just a simple example. Snapchats and how many dating sites allow kids onto dating sites now. There are supposed to be parental laws out there and child protection laws, and some are enforced, some are not. There's new ones on the books, but you've got to be prepared ahead of time to know what to do. You have to take the responsibility. Don't rely on the government to do it for you. Don't rely on big tech to do it for you, because it just isn't going to happen. Their motivations are different. And I would say that in terms of bullying, getting in front of that, there's two points that I like to talk about a lot, and one is teach and remind kids about kindness. Don't let your kid be the bully.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's oftentimes we forget that. We look at our child as potentially being bullied, but what if your child is the one doing the bullying?
Right.
And as a parent, you are responsible for that too. And you need to be looking for those signs as well. So understanding what that looks like and what those signs are, I think, is just as important as not. So teach kids and remind kids about kindness. And of course, what a great mission and vision for Stand4Kind, right? And the work that you
Yes.
guys are doing out there across the country. And we're super proud of the relationship we have with you guys, because you're knocking that one out of the park in terms of teaching kids about kindness and,
Yes.
and then reminding them over and over again. But with 1 in 10 kids ever telling their parents that they're being bullied, you have a challenge on your hands, right? So if 50% increased risk of suicidal thoughts after a bullying incident,
Mm-hmm.
that's a startling enough statistic. But what if only 1 in 10 kids ever tells their parent?
Yeah. Wow.
Now, where are we? We're in a
Wow.
situation where suicide rates are up. We're in a situation where kids check out and they become victim in their mind and get that victim mentality instead of that hero mentality. And that's a really bad place to come from when you're a young, impressionable teenager or younger, and you're trying to move into adulthood with that mentality.
Right.
It is a societal problem, and it is a big one. So start with kindness, but then we have to talk to our kids about bullying and predators. And I like creating these trusted, open communications about that stuff. Have free, open communications with your child about these issues. Talk about it openly. And I like the idea of doing check-ins.
Yes.
We have family safety check-ins, right? And in our recommended family safety plan, that's part of it. It's like, how often do you want to meet? Well, probably at least once a week, maybe at the latest once a month. Have a
Mm-hmm.
check-in with the kids. How's it going? How's this? How's that? There's a list of questions you should be asking. I also like the idea of empowering your child to be safe and healthy. And the conversations are key to that, but you also have to get them to agree to the protection measures.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough just to say, hey, let's talk about these problems. It's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
here's the family's plan, and we're going to talk about it, and we need your buy off on it. You could even create a signature page if you want, so that you know that they understand it. Print it out, have them sign it, so that the child is aware you love them and care about them, and you're doing everything in your power to protect them while empowering them to use technology the right way and leverage this wonderful digital age that we live in. So the other little basic things for predators and bullies is monitor as much as you can
Yeah.
without trying to be a helicopter parent, but you do have to monitor. There's no way around that today. So those are things I would do to get in front of bullying in particular and prevent the suicide ideation. That's kind of building a little bit onto our discussion about what a family safety plan looks like. But
Sure. It's all great information and great advice. And it makes me think, we're putting this very powerful, small piece of technology in their hands,
yeah,
but we have to do it with education. We have to do it with a
yeah,
plan. You wouldn't just hand a 16-year-old a set of car keys and say, go get in the car and take off by yourself
that's
with
right.
no prior instruction, no rules of the road. You wouldn't even dream of doing something like
Yeah,
that. So we need to approach technology in the same way, because the online predators they are extremely smart, like you said, and they are crafty, and they are looking for very innovative ways to get at our kids, and they are patient. We are finding this out through, unfortunately, there have been a lot of young males who have been targeted with sextortion and have completed suicide because they just didn't know, and they didn't have the education, and they didn't, like you said, they didn't feel comfortable telling a trusted adult, hey, I've done this, now what, help me. They're
yep,
so shamed that, in their little minds, undeveloped, that's the only solution, is to take
yeah.
their life.
Well,
So
how many parents are actually having that conversation with their kids right now?
yeah, I won.
I bet you a minority of parents are
Right.
sitting down and talking to their teenage son and saying, "Look, you're going to be tempted to do this.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that, and here's the consequences if it does happen. Do
Right.
you understand? Do you have any questions or concern? If something happens, are you willing to come back and talk to me?" You got to be able to put your arm around that kid and say, "I love you, and I'm here for you.
Yes.
And if mistakes happen, let's talk about it and let's recover from it. Let's not let it destroy our lives."
Yes.
But parents also don't understand the terminology being used, right?
It's fair.
The kids have a lingo,
They
and
do.
predators have a lingo. Um, and so when they're gaming, you have to look for certain flags and signs, and there's new technology being developed that we're looking at that can help parents track those terms better, flag those terms better.
Yes.
Um, with the help of AI, we're going to get closer and closer to being able to leverage AI to monitor conversations like this. But do yourself a favor as a parent and meet often enough, talk often enough, be friends enough with your child and
Yes.
your teen that
Yes.
you understand the lingo and the words that are being said.
Yes.
And if something alarms you, ask about it.
Yeah.
Hey, what is that? What does that mean? Be engaged that
Yes.
way.
I mean, I have actually called a younger friend of mine and been like, what is that? What does that mean? Or, I mean, I'm not ashamed to say I've Googled a couple of things just to see what it means, you know?
Yep.
I have a 19-year-old son, and when he was in high school, and I was with Stand4Kind, so I knew that a lot of these things were happening. And I knew a lot about the grooming process and, you know, these kiddos that were suffering. So I sat my son down and I had this conversation. And let me tell you, parents out there that are listening, yes, it was awkward. It was weird and it was a
Yeah.
little uncomfortable for both of us. But we had the conversation and we both walked away from it probably a little icky. He probably felt a little icky from it, but he knew what to watch for. He knew what he knew that he could come to us with anything, no matter
I
what.
was just going to say, you became an advocate and a protector, and kids need that. In a
Yes.
world where everything is so dicey out there and things can flip on a dime in one day, where you are friends with people and the next day you're being bullied by those same people.
Yes.
And unless you are the advocate and a trusted friend of your child who
Hmm.
knows better, they won't come talk to you.
Right.
They're going to
Right.
bury it.
They are going to bury it, or they're going to go to someone who's going to give them really crappy advice
Yeah,
and, you know, a peer, and that's just not going to help anything. Um,
absolutely.
so all of this is can be a little overwhelming. So let's just distill it down just a little bit, um, and talk to us about what you hear from parents about navigating the digital world and how to protect them, and how do we keep it from being so overwhelming to get
Yeah.
started.
Well, let's start with this. The parents that we do talk to, I will tell you, number one, they love their kids.
Of course, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, they're coming from a place of love and being a protector. They don't
yeah.
want their kids to be harmed. So we know that about good families, good parents, or caregivers or guardians, right? They love the teen or the child and they want them to be safe. And so that's a really good place to start from. But loving them is good, but not knowing where to start is the problem.
Hmm,
You
sure,
might love your child, but like, where do you start?
right.
If you want to protect them and you want to have that trusted, open relationship, most of the people we talk to say, "I just didn't know where to start.
Hmm.
I'd like
Hmm.
to do this. I love my child, but I don't know where to start. It's too complicated. There's too many solutions, too many apps. You know, is the smart kid phone, safe kid phone enough? Or
Hmm.
where do I start with video games? Where do I start with social media? Where do I start with any of this content filtering? It's hard to know where to start. What technology is best for you and your family and your situation? And the other thing we hear consistently is, I don't have time for this. I'm busy.
You get that
I'm
feedback a lot.
running to and fro. I'm doing my things with my
Yeah,
kids, and I'm busy. I got a job, and I got this and that.
yeah.
So people have not enough time, and so what ends up happening is um, most of the people that we end up helping out have either become complacent and just saying, it may not never happen to me, or they procrastinate and they're just like, I'll get to it someday. These are
Mm-hmm.
two danger spots that we see.
Someday is dangerous.
Yeah,
Someday it's dangerous.
someday is dangerous. So procrastination is a problem, and so is complacency. In the digital world that we live in, there is no place or time to be complacent at this point. You must do something, and then don't wait to do it. Do it now. Those are our top tips that we give to parents. And so then the real question is: am I going to try to do this myself? Am I going to become a cybersecurity expert and be my cyber guardian, or be the cyber guardian for my kids? Put a cape on, but with true expertise. Well, some people actually can pull that off. Some people are super smart and have the time, and they can do it, and love this stuff. They actually like it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I learned to love this by virtue of having to learn to love it. Back, 15, 20 years ago, there were no options. I
Yeah.
had to figure it out on my own. And I'm like, hey, I could help other people. And that's what gave birth to this company.
So you really
Um,
kind of blaze the trail for the rest of us, if you think of it that's how I kind of see it. You
yeah,
just kind of
yeah,
like you've done the hard work for us, and
yep,
you've got it
yep.
figured out, and you're staying in front of it. So now the rest of us can benefit from
Yeah,
that.
that's the idea of not having to do it yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but find a friend or an expert who can do it for you. And that's the best case scenario, because what we do is we stay on top of it all for you. You don't have to worry about what technology upgrade is coming, or What about the new iPhone? What are the risks with that? There's new video games coming out. Are these maturity ratings actually real? And what access does this game give to online chat versus that one? Right? There's so many things that you're not going to be able to stay up on. And guess what? That's what we do full time, all day, every day, and
Mm-hmm.
that's our job. So you be awesome parents or educators. Let us be your experts and handle all this stuff for you. We found that's the formula that works. The
Mm-hmm.
DIY approach only works for a handful of people. Everything else, really, you just need a team of experts doing it with you.
Okay, this you made me think of something I have to ask you. Um, so we can't be around our kiddos 24/7. Sometimes, you've got working families who have grandparents as caregivers.
Yep.
Um, and they may be watching the child. For instance, when my son was really young, I had to have the conversation with my in laws that just because something is animated does not mean that it is appropriate for his age level, right?
Yep. Exactly.
So, how is in the safety plan that you guys help parents design, is there a piece that helps them to communicate with those extended family members that might be watching the kid? Like, what do they distill down and just say, hey, you've got my kid for the weekend. These are the rules.
Yeah. If you have created your family safety plan online, right, your online family safety plan, you should share that with the people who are caretakers. I would be concerned, and just make sure you vet daycare centers. Make sure that any babysitters that everybody should know this is our family safety plan. And for grandparents, we recommend that grandparents actually use our same services the same way a parent would.
Okay.
Grandparents should lock their home down.
Yeah.
I say that tongue in cheek, and my wife gives me a hard time every time I say lock the home down. No, we don't want to lock the home down. We want to create a safe environment in the home. That's what
Yes.
I mean by that. You don't want to eliminate technology. You want to leverage technology, but you want to do it safely. The
Mm-hmm.
kids have to grow up in a digital world anyway. You're not
Yes.
going to avoid that. But doing
Yes.
it with good cyber hygiene is the difference. Doing it with good safety is the difference. And parents who are active and proactive with this stuff, they're going to do it right. And their kids, even if they have problems, are going to have the resources and the support. So at a grandparent's home, you want to make sure that home is safe and secure. We believe that when you allow kids to have play dates, young kids, young children, I'll just tell you a quick story. My son went to play at a friend's house, and he was in the family room watching a movie, and the parents stepped out. They went and grabbed dinner for the kids, and my son was maybe 12. Um, Before they came home, the parents, my son came running back to my house crying. And he had been exposed to pornography
Oh, no.
on that television. His friend said, "Do you want to see what my dad watches?"
Oh, dear Lord.
And my son had never seen anything like that. And he was wrecked.
Wow.
So he came home crying. Sorry.
Okay.
Um,
I get it. That's awful.
it's one of those situations where you wake up as a parent and you're like, wow, this digital world is nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you? Whose house were you at?
Mm-hmm.
We live in a world where you have to know these things. So we like safe play dates. We
Mm-hmm.
recommend your kids associate with other families that have safe environments.
Mm-hmm.
You just never know what can happen, right?
Right.
And that was a real story that happened in my family with my son. My son's awesome. He actually works for us. He's
Does
one of the
he?
advisors that advises parents.
Yeah. Oh, that's
He's
awesome.
now married, and so the story turned out okay. But my heart breaks for parents who have kids who become victims,
Yes.
and it's not always because of the kid doing something wrong.
Right.
It's
Right.
just the digital world that we live in. So
It's so
be proactive.
accessible at a moment's notice, at their fingertips. It's right there. And I'm
Yep.
sorry that happened to your son, but it sounds like that you guys did come out okay and learned a lot from it. One of the things that, and you probably have this in your family safety plan, but we advocate at Stand4Kind to have a safety phrase, like an out phrase
Yep.
that only the kid, the parents, and the care and the extended,
Yep.
like the
Exactly.
grandparents know. If they call and they say it immediately I'm on my way. If a teenager texts it, I'm on my way. Like,
Yep.
we know if someone's there to pick you up and you weren't told that someone new is supposed to pick you up, if they don't know that phrase, you don't get in the car with them.
That's
So
right.
those are good things that I remember one time my son, we had our safety word, our safety phrase, and it was a callback. I would say one thing, he'd call back the other half of the phrase. And we had gotten separated just like that in a grocery store. And I yelled out the first part of the phrase, and I heard his little voice like aisles over. And we kept saying it. And I didn't
Yep.
care what people thought until we found each other.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So I think there are things
Well,
like that.
Candy, this is also an online problem. You've related it in the physical sense, but grandparents are getting kidnapping calls now, right? That are
Yes,
scam calls,
yes,
and parents are getting them too, and they're AI. So this is the sad and scary part about technology: is AI can record our voices and mimic our voices, and so bad guys do this. They'll leverage it, and they'll make the grandparent or the parent think their child's been kidnapped. The safety phrase works there too.
yes,
So you ask, okay, well, if it's really you, what's our safety phrase, or what's our family passcode, or whatever you decide to call it, right? And then if they say that, it's them. If they don't know what
yes.
that is, then it's a scam. And so empower the caregivers and the parents with all these wonderful words of wisdom.
Yes, definitely. We recently added that AI piece to that infographic to make sure
Mm,
that parents and caregivers and
yep, yep,
all that know. And I wish, it makes me think about foster families too and just empowering them. We've got to make sure that they're getting into the fold to help protect those foster kids while they have them and teach them
yep,
these things to help
absolutely,
them safe too.
absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about helping out families. Let's talk a little bit more about iDefend and go into a little bit more detail about helping families
Absolutely.
themselves.
Well, I've heard you use this phrase, and this is what we do. We walk alongside our clients. We walk alongside you to help you stay safe and protected. We are your advocates and your advisors, and we set up your family safety plan with you and for you. That's the biggest key benefit you're going to have with our service. If you want to do it yourself, there's a lot of resources out there online that you can YouTube and YouTube to your heart's delight. But if you want experts to do this for you, that's what we do. We're a full service for families where we have all the technologies, we have all of the consultations and advice, the hand holding step by step all the way through the whole thing from start to finish. And it's not enough just to set everything up. You have to maintain it. You have to stay current,
Yeah,
right? And this is
right.
one of the harder things to do. And there is no one app that you can throw on a phone that's going to solve all your problems. It's just not the case anymore. You need to be quick in action, quick to respond, quick to update. And it's going to be a managed service. It's going to be a service that's going to do this for you, not an app. So iDefend is a full protection service for families. And it does everything for you to protect your kids all in one place. And this is really what we do is we're an all-in-one solution backed by experts who personally care for you and do everything for you, right? And it's kind of a dream come true for parents who are busy and don't want to take the time to be the experts and do all this themselves. So with our family safety side of what we do, we not only create the plan, but then we provide all the technologies. We help you implement the parental controls, the content filtering, the video game safety monitoring, the social media monitoring, the device safety. We give you guides for parenting in the digital age and checklists of what to say to a child and how to have those conversations, how to do check-ins. All of these things are part of our family safety plan that we provide you. So you won't have to worry about trying to get new technology to monitor a video game if it's Roblox or Minecraft or whatever. We're going to give that to you. So
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get all the tools and you're going to get all the advice and the hand holding that you need. And it's all personalized and customized to your family. But we know and realize that the criminal underground goes further than just video games or social media, right? So we have other really essential key components that we provide every family as well. And there's three other key areas of protection that's included with our service. And one is your privacy online. It's getting your child's and your information off of data broker websites, privatizing yourself, get off the grid a little bit,
Yeah.
stop your information flowing all around the world online where predators and criminals can find you and track you and then start having conversations with you. So we have a full online privacy protection plan that we provide every family as well. Safe browsing, when to use a VPN, when not to, how to get your information off of data trafficker and data broker sites, things like that. There's a whole section in our service that's related to just that. And then we do full identity protection and financial account protection, credit monitoring, show you how to lock a child's credit up so that the thief can't use them while they're a child. All these things, financially and identity related, are really important too. And we provide 100% protection around that area as well, which is really should be a good peace of mind for everybody. It's like the digital world comes at you from so many different angles, and the threats are coming at you from so many different places.
Sure.
The final area that we really touch on is your device safety and security, and that's computers, home Wi-Fi, your digital camera systems, your listening devices, your smart TVs, and other things. We want to make sure those are all safe and protected as well. Create a safe environment in your home that is based on your rules, not the manufacturer's rules. So you need to pay attention to device safety. And to boot with that, every family gets an unlimited tech support plan. So anytime you have a problem with any of the technologies in your home, printers and your email not working, or a laptop malfunctioning, Windows, crashing, we take care of it all. And that's all part of the plan. So to create the perfect plan of support and technology, it took a lot of work for us to build everything out. But finally, parents can get this all-in-one solution and service with all the technologies, all the support, the expertise backing it up. We're U.S. based. Our team is in the U.S. We're not going to outsource it.
Ask you that. I love that.
We're
Yeah,
all right here. We
great.
home grow our experts right in our own lab, so to speak. We take them right out of college and we teach them what they need to know, because they're not learning it in college. What we know takes street
Mhm.
smarts. And
Mhm.
so you have to fight fire with fire. And so we take people who are really smart and make them advisors. And it's been a really successful process to build all of the technology and the infrastructure and then back it up with support, because people just don't have the time for it anymore. So we basically set it all up, configure it, and then we maintain it for you and keep it all current. So you basically you can set it and forget it while we do all the hard work.
So I didn't forget. Love that.
So yeah, that should be good news for a lot of folks.
Very comforting. Well, James, let me ask you a quick question. So you said a lot of good stuff, and there's even more. We could go in and unpack so many things that you said today and stats that you shared. So if a parent, a caregiver, a grandparent is thinking about, I would really like to do something like this. And I know it's not one size fits all because you customize everything, but about how much time on the front end does one spend getting all set up?
You're going to spend about 20 to 30 minutes on an introductory exploratory session with one of our advisors to make sure that we're hitting all of the priorities that you have. And it's based on the age of your children, what electronics they have access to, what web access they have, those kinds of things. And when then we personalize, it'll take maybe 20 to 30 minutes to get through that. And then we will go to work either remotely connecting into computers to get them locked down, or giving you hands-on guides to go into the iOS and lock that down, or
Okay.
we'll remote in and do that for you. Plan on another 20 or 30 minutes to go through and implement, set up, configure, and set everything up. So you're maybe into it 30 minutes to 60 minutes, maybe spread out over 1 to 2 appointments. It is actually quite easy and quite fun and comforting to go through the process of getting all your protections set up. You could do a lot of it yourself. We have an app that you can download for Apple or Android, and it walks you through step by step right through your app to set up all your monitoring and your protections, schedule time with our experts whenever works for you. It's all perfectly set up in our app too. So we make it as easy as possible for you to do as much as you want on your own, or to have it all done for you.
Okay.
Either way.
Okay.
And you can get started the moment you sign up for the service. You literally are getting going within minutes, and your protections are being activated and your kids are being monitored, and all these things start to happen without you even talking to us. But one of the things that our clients love the most about it is being able to jump on the phone, schedule some time or whatever, and say like, hey, here's my situation. Can you double check and make sure I'm doing everything right? And how do I do this monitoring on this computer for that? I need help having you set that up. And we're like, sure, let's give you a security code. We'll remotely connect into that computer and you can watch us do it. We'll just fix it for you right there.
Cool.
And that's what I think our clients like most about it, is that personal care, that one-on-one attention, where you have a team of advisors just taking care of it all for you. So hopefully that helps you paint a little bit better picture about how long it takes and how easy it is. We like to see checkpoints every now and then, every 90 days or 180 days, every year. We like to do checkups. We want to
Okay.
make sure that everything's working well, but our software is always updating automatically in the background anyway. Our
Yes.
phone app is updating regularly in the background anyway. And as your needs change, we adapt to fit. We'll bring out new technologies for you and give them to you.
That's
So you
awesome.
won't ever have to buy all these, 7 to 10 different technologies. You won't have to hire a consultant. It's all taken care of.
Hmm.
There's the one thing people don't realize is for you to really be safe in your home, there's like 20 to 25 different areas of protection that you should be paying attention to today.
Oh, good grief.
Most people wouldn't understand, half of those, but we do. And we have that 20 plus point inspection and 20 plus point protection plan. And it's all done for you.
Well, you
So
do
it
it
just
for your
makes it,
car. Why wouldn't you do it for your home
yeah,
and
yeah.
property,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. You know what I'm saying?
It just makes sense. Good grief. And things like I love the conversation starters because sometimes parents or especially grandparents who are raising their grandkids, they don't even know how to start the conversation.
Yeah,
Do they find those conversation starters in the app or how do they?
absolutely. Yep. Right on the phone. Yep. They can
Okay.
just jump right in and go start reading and get their outline of talking points and, questions to ask the child. And it's all right there.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay, so as we kind of finish up for today, there's been so much for people to chew on. How do they find you? How do they learn more?
Great question. To learn more, and we're doing something very special for anyone associated with Stand4Kind, and I want to share that as well. But you can go to the Stand4Kind website at stand4kind.com, and you'll be able to find information there about iDefend. The other place to go is to our website, which I'll give you that URL. It's idefendhome.com/safety.
Okay.
So it's iDefend, the letter I, idefendhome.com/safety. And when you go there, be sure to use the promo code S4K, stand for kind, S4K. That's the special promo code that we've given to the Stand for Kind community. And whether you go to Stand for Kind's website or ours, be sure to use that promo code because we're going to let you try out iDefend for 2 weeks for free, 14 days free. Just jump in. You don't have to pay anything out of pocket. Start using it. Check it all out. Kick the tires. You'll find some amazing stuff in there that's going to be helpful for you. And you're going to absolutely love having a team of advisors there backing you up with everything you need. And on top of all that, you're not just going to get your first 2 weeks free. For Stand4Kind community members, we are offering up to 30 to 50% off our services. If you use that promo code
Wow,
S4K, you will save between 30 to 50% off of our services.
that's awesome.
You can prepay annually or monthly, but there's a 30-day money back guarantee and there's no contracts.
Okay.
There's really no risk here. Our mission is to help save families, kids, get people empowered to live in the digital age with safety and security and privacy. And our mission and our goal is to help you do that. So we're excited to help you, to serve you, protect you.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
Take advantage of it.
That is awesome because we know for sure the mental health effects. We know suicidal ideation has increased because of the mental health effects of cyberbullying and sextortion and all these things, these online predators. We've invited the wolves into our house. Now it's time to take back the control and put the safety measures in place. And so let's get iDefense and iDefend in place so we can do that. So, James Harrison, iDefend, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for all of your expertise and knowledge and just really distilling it down in a way that the rest of us can understand what it is that we need to be doing. So, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure.